This video is sponsored by Ren. Greetings guys, gals, and non-binary pals, and welcome back to another video. Last video I did, or a couple videos back, I included some like conservative cartoons and a bunch of you asked me to look at those. So I didn't, but instead I found this different cartoonist, and I found this cartoonist because they came up on my timeline 3 times. Twice as quote retweets and once as like a recommended tweet, because I look at Twitter accounts so much that I sometimes get like conservative stuff recommended to me, just like on my timeline. Super annoying. I had like alpha male tips come up for like a month. And I kept hitting not interested and they just kept showing up. I found these cartoons, which is called Sinfest, which has been ongoing for like multiple decades now, which I think is quite interesting. So a little bit about them is that this person, Tatsuya Ishida, I think that's how you pronounce it, I think that's their name, started this comic series, like a newspaper strip comic almost, a couple decades back, and I've just been like publishing a new one like every day, every week for like a really long time. And the base of it is it follows a certain group of characters for the most part. So there's like this girl with like short purple hair, there's a blonde guy, Death, Time, and Liberty. Those are the ones that I sort of managed to pick up on, but they have like recurring side characters and stuff. I obviously did not go back like 25 years, so I don't know the foundation of it, but like they are all also like standalone comics. You just also have to know that there is like a history of these characters and you notice that they reoccur. I did go back on their Twitter like 3 years, I think, so I followed a little bit, but I was going backwards. A large amount of these comics are political, obviously. I'm talking about it. But it's interesting because they seem to have like base level feminism in a way. Like they're aware of issues. Like they know that the patriarchy exists and they know that it's a problem. As you can see from these comics where this recurring character is searching up the patriarchy. So, the sisterhood. Welcome, Neek. We've been waiting for you. You want to know about the patriarchy? What it is? How it works? Take the purple pill and see how deep the rabbit hole goes. They take the purple pill, pop, swig, and then they get pulled in to the computer. Holy crap. Looking around, my god, it's everywhere. This is the patriarchy. A social interactive construct that bombards us with misogyny. It's a program of male domination that permeates all levels of society. The workplace, school, home. It enforces and maintains a brutal sex caste system where boys are taught to dominate and girls to submit. And then you see like the ways the patriarchy like impact her, and she's looking around at like more provocative clothing and makeup. It burns. And then she cuts her hair short. And that, I believe, is the full comic for that. So I think this person is more of like a centrist politically. They don't seem to be right nor left. They make critique of both sort of sides, but they are transphobic, which is the big problem. Is they're one of those people that is very like anti-third wave feminism, but they do have like understanding of feminism. They do understand the patriarchy and they do criticize the patriarchy, and they are aware that it's a problem. That's also seen through this comic, which is a response to, they made a girls only comic where a man saw a female only space and felt left out, so decided to make a man only space, which says no vaginas allowed, nya 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 nya, which, you know, like I said, transphobic. We'll get into that shortly. Welcome, brothers. Let us bask in our manly glory. Men only space. Dude, this is a total sausage fest. Someone peeing on a tree. Hey, don't do that. 2 guys fighting. Guys, cut it out. Someone setting fire to the sign. What? Why? Patriots with guns. Yeehaw! War. Fighting. And then he questions, what the hell is wrong with us? And someone just says, I blame women. Based. This is a good comic. It's true. This is how it goes. He's aware of toxic masculinity. We know that this is a problem and that men like to blame everything on women. He makes some good points. This is a good comic. And I agree with what it says. It's great. The problem, as I said, is when we delve further into newer comics from the past year are just like entirely just transphobia and deliberately misunderstanding and misexplaining third wave feminism. So those are the comics that we're going to look at, but I thought that I would share that with you to sort of give a bit of a base understanding of what this person actually believes, and just that, you know, they have some views in the right place, but they're obviously not great because, you know, trans women are women and they're feeding the misunderstanding and delusion of transphobes. So let's get into the recent comics. You might have seen a couple of these. A couple of them have like blown up recently. I've seen a bunch of them being quote tweeted, so you might have seen some. So first up is someone they've depicted as like a man dressed as a woman coming in, so very like broad with like a beard, but wearing a Hello Kitty top and a skirt. But like obviously, you know, he also has body hair because that's to accentuate that he's a man, because women obviously don't have body hair obviously. So they come in and they say, "Hello, fellow gals. Just using the bathroom of my authentic gender. Teehee." And then peeing with the door open, singing "I'm just a girl in the world" and making the children uncomfortable. And this is always such a weird thing to me. Like, why do transphobes like to paint it as though people come into the bathroom and just like show everyone their genitals? Like, I don't know what bathroom you've been into, but that doesn't happen. Typically people close the door and no one cares what's going on. No one cares what's in your pants because no one knows, and it's a really weird question to ask someone. Like, people don't typically go into public bathrooms to assault or harass people, especially trans people. They're the ones being assaulted and harassed. Trans people are like the most targeted when it comes to hate crime. Like, trans people are not going in there and making it known that they're trans. They are definitely not doing that. They don't want you to know. They are the most like in and out secretive people of them all in there, because they don't want you to attack them, because that's a fear that they have to live with every single day. And it's just such a weird idea that so many transphobes like to think that trans people are like predators and going in and just like flashing everyone. What? No. A theme they've been doing a lot recently is like school and like woke school. So here's an example of that. So a teacher is saying to a small child, "Please tell us your preferred pronouns." And she says, just normal girl pronouns for normal girls." And the class gasps and screams. And then the teacher's like a lizard person. And she says, now, it's her first day. She'll learn." This is so ridiculous as well. Like, this has never ever happened, ever. The conservatives love to paint public school as though it's like feeding some leftist woke agenda, but it really isn't. Like, public school is still homophobic and it's still whitewashing history. A very large amount of teachers are not going to ask your pronouns. Like, that would be a very small minority of teachers who are going to ask for your pronouns. I went to a very like sexuality, gender equality, positive school where we had like a sexuality support program and all that sort of stuff. No one ever asked pronouns. That wasn't a thing. To be fair, it was like 7 years ago, but like my sister was there like last year and they never asked pronouns. And this is at a high school, at a very like liberal, more left-leaning high school. They never fucking asked, because it's not a thing people typically ask. But I don't see what the problem is if they did. I do think we should be asking what pronouns people want to use. And sure, some children might not have an understanding of that, but that's literally what school is for. You learn what pronouns are at school. That's what you do in primary school. And there's nothing wrong with you saying normal girl pronouns when you're a child, because she, her is typically associated with women and girls. So saying I use the girl pronouns, it's not incorrect. And no one's going to get mad at a child for using that or for saying that. If a child says, "I use the girl pronouns," you're like, okay, so she, her. And then they'd say yes. Or they could change it and say, no, I want to use Ziza and I'm a girl. And that's okay too. They can also change their mind later on. They're children. They might not know. They've been referred to by one set of pronouns their whole life so far, and they don't really understand they could do anything differently, or they don't feel like they need to, they want to at this point. And that's fine. Saying girl pronouns isn't a problem when you don't have a comprehension of what that means, and that's fine, and no one's gonna be pissed off about that. Literally no one. Except you, apparently. Quickly interrupting this video to tell you about today's sponsor, Ren. Ren is a tool that allows you to offset your carbon footprint. As we all know, the climate crisis is very real and is something in need of immediate change, and although that largely falls on corporations, I do believe we as individuals should also still be doing what we can. And Ren is a reasonably accessible way to do so. Ren allows you to calculate roughly your carbon footprint and then give you a way to offset that through monthly donations to specific projects on their website. My favorite project that they have currently is supplying clean cookers to refugees, which allow them to cook food without creating too much smoke pollution, which is both terrible for themselves and their lungs and their health, and also for the environment. So with Ren, you donate a monthly amount and that money will go towards these projects. Another one includes protecting indigenous communities within the Amazon rainforest by alerting them of deforestation that is happening around them and helping to prevent that from continuing, which I think is really, really cool. We don't all have the time to be actively fighting against climate change in whatever ways, and if it is something that you are able to afford and put money aside every month, then it is a really great way to do what you can as an individual where you might be otherwise unable to do so. It's important to do what you can where you can, and I believe that this is a really cool tool for those who may not have the time and capability to do much else, or even if you can do other stuff, it's always good to do as much as you can. And I think that is a really cool tool and a really great way to make any sort of difference. And if you are one of the first 100 people who use my link in the description, then you will get a tree planted in your name, which is pretty cool. We love planting trees. It's great. Trees are cool. Piece by piece, change by change, we can and will make a difference, and this is a good place to start. So thank you so much, Ren, for sponsoring today's video, and let's get back into it. The Woke Olympics, mental gymnastics, 500-meter walking on eggshells, synchronized cancelling, the Priv Luge. I'm sorry! I always find it so funny that conservatives like to spread this idea that leftists are so sensitive and so easily offended, when all we ask is for you to not be like judgmental and like sexist and racist, homophobic, transphobic, etc. Like all we want is for you to treat people equally, and you get pissed off when we tell you that you're being transphobic or you're being racist. You'll do something that like genuinely hurts someone, so we say, hey, that's not cool, maybe don't do that, and then you get pissy and say that we're easily offended. No, my guy, you're being offended by being so defensive. Just say, oh, okay, I'm sorry, and change your behavior. It's really not that difficult. It's like really not that hard to not insult and defend people. Like, it's not hard to do. Just like listen to people's critique. We feel like we have to walk on eggshells around like conservative family members all the time because it's so easy to set them off. You bring up like one small thing and they're gonna go off at you about how that's wrong and how the political left are like this, that, and the other, and they're so sensitive. I'm like, my guy, I just like said gay, and now you're on a whole rant about how you hate the gays. That sounds like a you problem. That sounds like you were easily offended, not me. You're getting upset by someone saying they use they them pronouns. Like, fucking get over it and just use they them pronouns. You use the wrong pronouns, and I'm gonna be like, hey, don't do that. They use they them. And then you're gonna tell me I get easily offended? Bro, I'm not the one offended. I'm just correcting you because you're upsetting and hurting someone else. And the correct response would be, oh, sorry, and just fix your behavior. Not get mad that someone else identifies as something and you don't personally understand it because it's not about you. We're sensitive, but you're the ones who will like disown your children for doing something that you don't agree with. Like, why don't you trust the scientists? Boy pills, girl pills, snip snip, tuck tuck. That's why. This rhetoric of everyone being trans and like doctors just handing out hormones and offering like top surgery and bottom surgery and stuff is so ridiculous, because there is a very small percentage of the population who is actually trans, and sure, it looks as though that number is growing, but it's not. More people are just comfortable coming out and talking about it, and that's fine. There's not a problem with that. That's literally all it is that there are just more people who are coming to terms with it and accepting it and coming out with it. And they struggle to find help. It can take years to be on a waiting list to receive treatment for hormones and surgery and things. It can take a really long time, and it is not easily available to everyone. And as far as I'm aware, for the most part, you have to do therapy in order to get those things available to you. You have to go through therapy first, and you have to be evaluated and have assessment and stuff. Like, it's not just an easy fix and an easy go get some hormones and go home sort of thing. That's not how it works. It's a long and lengthy process. Obviously, I'm not trans. I haven't had to go through that, but from what I've heard and what I've read, I am fairly certain that it is a frustrating and long and lengthy process. You also have to remember that no one wants to be trans. No one is doing that for the lols. Like, trans people, as I said, are like the most targeted victims of hate crimes. No one wants that for themselves. Why would they choose that? That's not a thing anyone wants to do. And if there is anyone choosing to be trans for attention, then they need help. Anyone who does something so extravagant for attention, like faking disabilities or pretending to be trans, require therapy. Like, they do need help. And that is a very small number of people. But you continuing to put out this rhetoric of people pretending to be trans and everyone doing it for attention and to be part of a fad and saying that everyone's getting hormones and it's predatory is just fueling the fire against trans people. It's just directly hurting them. When you could just like sit back and let people live their lives how they want to live them, they're not hurting anyone. Like, being trans has nothing to do with being a bad person. Like, if there is a bad person who is trans, they are a bad person and they are trans. Those two things are not related. There are way more, like, cis-het predators than anything else. Like, being trans has nothing to do with being a bad person. You can be trans and be a bad person, but you aren't a bad person because you're trans. You aren't trans because you're a bad person. Those two things are they're not related at all. Stop feeding this weird, unnecessary hatred that you have just because. Just, like, let people live their lives and stop hurting people. Just because you aren't directly, like, pulling the trigger doesn't mean you aren't the one loading the gun. Help! He's choking! Is there a doctor in the house? I am a doctor of gender studies. What are your pronouns? Acting as though you haven't been able to get a doctorate in literally whatever you want for the longest time is not doing anything. Like, you've been able to get a doctorate in whatever since as long as I know. A doctorate just means you've done like a long study of it and you've written up a dissertation and you've done a lot of research and you've had to apply and go through like a whole process so that you can be classed as like an expert in that field. And what people usually refer to as a doctor is like a doctor of medicine who then practices medicine, because you need a doctorate in order to practice medicine. But you can be a doctor of whatever. You can take your degree to a doctor level if you want. You go bachelor's, you can go master's, you can go doctor. I could have become a doctor of music if I wanted to. Didn't want to. I stopped at my bachelor because, like, I didn't want to go to uni any longer and I didn't see the point. But I could have continued, could have been a doctor in music. I had a teacher, a science teacher, who had a doctorate on, like, turtles. Like, you can get a doctorate in anything, man. My auntie has a doctorate in feminist history. Like, and that's decades old. And it is useful in what she does. Doctorates are useful in your field. It means you know what you're talking about. It means that you can put out like research papers and things and have it be like a reliable source because you're an expert in that thing. It means that you can be like a professor. You can help out on specific tasks and Like, you can get a doctorate in anything. Don't act like this is a new thing. You can have a doctorate in gender studies, and that's pretty cool. It means you're an expert on that sort of topic, and that can be a profession, and I'm sure it is for people. Just like having a doctorate in anything else. This is not a new thing. This is a two-parter. What's this? Third wave feminism. Sex positive, pro porn, kinky fun, slut walking feminism. Hell yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then, like, watching porn. I'm doing feminism. I am a feminist. No, you're not. I am a third wave, slut positive, prude, negatory, pro-degradation feminist. That's just old-fashioned misogyny. No, it's third wave misogyny. Very cutting edge. And he's talking to, like, a porn harms person. Obviously, the person making these comics are, like, an anti-porn feminist. And I use the word feminist very lightly, obviously, because they are trans-exclusive and also have some, like, anti-women views, such as these, right? Like, I understand being anti-porn. I am also anti-porn to a degree. It's this thing of, like, the reason that sex positivity and pro-sex work is such a big part of feminism now is because sex workers do exist. Women are in sex work. That is not something you can change. There is a demand for it, so it's going to exist. And so what we need to do is put in practices in place that keep those women safe, to stop exploitation of people, to have fair pay, fair treatment. We don't want women to be abused. We want them to be seen as human beings. And yes, a lot of women are forced into sex work as like a last resort, and that is terrible. We don't want that. We want to support women in not having to do that. And then there are some women who choose to do it because it's what they want to do and they enjoy doing it, and that's also fine. Is wanting to do sex work and being sex positive and things like that a direct cause and effect of the patriarchy? Probably. But so is literally everything. As this person stated in their earlier patriarchy comment, the patriarchy is all around us. Our society is built off the back of the patriarchy. It's kind of impossible to escape. And we can either try to claim back power and hold that ourselves, or we can continue to fall victim to it. And women doing sex work and being sex positive and saying they're claiming back the power is them taking something that happens to them, which is being sexualized, and taking the power back and using that to support themselves and to be strong and to feel as though they have a choice in the sexualization of themselves rather than it being something done to them without consent. And that's totally fine. If you're happy and that's fine with you and it makes you happy, then fucking go for it. The problem isn't the women in the sex industry, it's the way we view the women in the sex industry and the way those women are treated. So what we need to do is encourage the fact that women in sex work are still just women, and we're all people, and we all deserve the same equal and fair treatment and wages and healthcare, etc. The problem is viewing women in sex work as less than. That's not cool. The sex industry does need to be looked at. Absolutely. There's so much exploitation that happens within it, and there's so much wrong with it. Like, if you're going to be consuming pornography, do it on, like, ethical sites and ethical places. Like, OnlyFans is a much better way because it's coming from the content creators themselves. As long as you know that it's coming from the creators themselves and it's something that they're choosing to do, then that's fine. That's an ethical practice. Getting free porn from Pornhub, that's not cool. That's not okay, because a lot of those videos are stolen and the people in them are being exploited. They aren't being paid for the work that's going up. You can go to a bunch of different sites where it's like homemade and people film themselves with their partner or like solo or whatever. And if you're paying them directly and it's something that they're choosing to do, then that is ethical porn. That's like sustainable sex work where people have the freedom of choice and they're earning their own income and they're deciding what they're doing. The problem is when corporations get involved, and that's the problem in anything. Anytime a big corporation gets involved, there is a problem. And people are going to be being exploited, and that is a big issue when it comes to like sex work, right? I'm gonna put a bit of a trigger warning here for a second for abuse, so jump to this timestamp if that's going to be a problem for you. But it's kind of like how sexual trauma can lead to hypersexuality as a way of like claiming back power. It's the same sort of way as how some sexual trauma leads to people having like consensual, non-consensual kinks, because it's about claiming back the power and remaking that into something that you own. So as someone who was taken advantage of and didn't have a say in what happened to my body, then being able to go out and sleep with a bunch of people by my own choice and what I wanted to do, and me consenting to that, was me claiming back that power and saying, hey, look, no, I do have a choice in what happens to my body. I can choose to have sex. I can choose to do this with my body, and it can be good. Is that a healthy coping mechanism? Maybe not, but it is something that a lot of people do, and a lot of people feel really invalidated by it because, you know, a lot of people think when you experience trauma that you then avoid that thing for a long time, and you're told that, oh, well, you're not avoiding it, you're doing that thing so much, you can't be that traumatized by it. Is not true at all. It's a way of claiming back power over it, right? And that's sort of what sex workers are doing with like the patriarchy, right? Like we've been abused and exploited and sexualized for such a long time. Like for forever, we've been objectified and sexualized. We go out in public and we're objectified and we're sexualized and we're taken advantage of. And so sex workers and sex work taking that back and being like, no, fuck you. I can choose to sexualize myself and do this and have people look at me like that on my own terms is a way of claiming back that power. Sex work is real work, and we do need to support sex workers, and that is a feminist take. Denying sex workers of like rights and saying that they shouldn't be allowed to do that and shaming them helps no one. We can help women get out of those situations if they need to, and that is important, but people who choose to do it, that is their decision, and they also deserve support in that decision. Anyway, that's all I have to say on that one. I hope that you learnt something. Let me know what you think. If you want to see me look at more of these comics, I can totally do that. There are so many. I didn't save all of them. There are a ton that I didn't get to. So if you want to see me talk about a few more of these, then let me know and I will. Or you can send me some that you think in particular you'd like me to talk about. Happy for that too. You can do that on Twitter, @thatqueerkiwi. You can tweet them at me. I don't tend to check my DMs. Or you can send them to me on Instagram, @thequeerkiwi, where I sometimes go through my DMs, but I don't typically reply because I have anxiety about talking to people. So I love to read your DMs. I really, really do, but I don't often reply because it makes me very anxious. Thank you for watching. A massive thank you to my Sprout and Above patrons, whose names are up on the screen right now. And an extra special thank you to my Kiwi Cat patrons, Wolf, Rosa, Talusk, Bobby, Sparrow, Josh, Mandy, and Robbie. I love and appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for becoming patrons. If you would like to become a patron and get videos early, bonus videos, little travel vlogs, etc., then you can go to patreon.com/savvycat or click the link in the description. It would mean a lot. It really helps to support me and this channel. So yeah, cool. I appreciate it. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, @thequeerkiwi, and Twitter, @thatqueerkiwi. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe. Keep fighting. I love you. Mwah. When you close your eyes.